Yeah, we are live. Tell me my mic is working. Where the heck? Ah, there it is. Welcome, everybody, to, I don't know, this is probably like my first live edition of Second Order Security. Where's that? Where's my mic? Point up here. Yeah, there we go. My name is Danny Akatsuki. I am a senior technical account manager with Gigamon Threat Insight. And some of you who have joined in the Twitch might be like, why is everything different? Why did you use your real name? Where's the dude on Twitter who only posts useless information? It's still me. I'm just a little more buttoned up today. And with me, I have one of my very good friends, Mr. Justin Warner from the Gigamon Threat Insight. Oh my God, is it Applied Threat Research? We change it all the time.
Yes, you're right.
Somebody asked me on Twitter to clarify if it was applied, acquired, or something. And then before they asked, I knew it. And then when they asked, I doubted myself. And I'm like, I don't know. I've only worked
There's
here.
only 20 or 30 ATRs in the industry. So
I was like, I've only worked here for 2 years. Why should I know? Oh my God, yeah, it's weird to be on. Well, I don't know, cause like when I do my streams here, I have like blackout curtains and stuff, so it's usually pretty uniform. But I can see light through a crack in the window, and it's tweaking me out because I normally do this at 10 o'clock at night. But this is a sort of a parallel spin-off splinter cell of my normal podcast, which is Second Order Chaos. But now I do it because like I do this because I work with super interesting people and I love talking to them. Like I actually love my job, right? Like somebody in security loving their job, like who really does that without being paid a lot of money to schmarm everything. But I like doing it. So we brought this up a while ago, beginning of the year. We've done a couple, never live, but we are actually live during Black Hat right now because Black Hat is going on virtually as everything else is. And if you're like me, you're also gearing up for DEF CON this weekend. But we figured during Black Hat, Gigamon should do something and come on and, do 30 minutes or so. And today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, or, maybe nobody cares about it. I don't know. Mobile security, which is actually, I am pretty curious about mobile security because it's so like everybody has got their mobile device, right? And I know for me, like not even, I guess it could be considered mobile. I just built a baller new computer in my office for streaming and gaming and things like that. So I would much rather use this thing for work than I would my actual work laptop. I never do. I always use my work laptop for everything official. But with the advent of, oh, thank you. Alkaline Red in the chat. It's like says my hair looks great. Just keep telling me I'm pretty. That's all I want. Luckily, Justin's wearing a hat because he is much prettier than me, and I can't be shown up by him.
COVID hair.
COVID hair. Have you still not gotten your haircut since this whole thing?
I've had some haircuts, but they've been done in the house, not at the
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I'm not gonna get Justin to take his hat off. We want people to watch this later. But I'm actually getting ahead of myself. We are going to be talking about mobile security. The title of today's stream is "Bring Your Own Destruction," because who really pays attention to what they're doing on their phones, even when they're attached to the corporate network. But I would love to introduce, or let my guest introduce himself, Mr. Justin Warner from the Threat Insight ATR team. Justin, who are you? What do you do, man?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. So my name is Justin Warner from the Applied Threat Research team at Gigamon. I lead our team. Our team does a wide array of different things, from threat intelligence to detection engineering, and then security R&D. We just do a lot of really cool shit, quite honestly, and a lot of it fuels into our products and goes to help our customers. Prior to being in this role, I served as a security engineer, did some red team work back in the days in consulting world, and prior to that, I was a government geek with the Air Force, doing computer stuff. So couple different backgrounds, transitioned, reformed red teamer, I'll call myself. where I find it really interesting to chase bad guys using the stuff I learned being a bad guy.
Rehabilitated, no longer miscreant.
Yeah, yeah, still miscreant, just maybe not during the professional day. Yeah.
That's not true at all. He does some real ratchet stuff even during work hours. Um, so yeah, and I met Justin when I came to what used to be a company called Iceberg, and we've had since partnered and been acquired by Gigamon, and Iceberg is now Threat Insight, and I am a career threat hunter. I realize that now for this stream today in the middle of the day, I might have some new viewers. Some new people might be viewing this either on my Twitch or on the YouTube channel for Gigamon. So my name is Danny, and I am a career threat hunter. I fell into the whole blue teaming thing early in my security career. I worked for Mandiant, GE Capital, Bank of America, places like that, and I just kind of fell into blue team, and that's what I've been doing for almost a decade, and found myself really in a lot of startups. Found myself on a lot of product teams, which now, having been both on product and on like an internal team, I kind of prefer being on a product team because I like to see things grow, and I like to see teams get input on things. Like, the cool thing about where we work is that we have direct lines via chat to our engineering team, and I'm a senior technical account manager, which means I am the single point of contact with our clients for Insight. So whenever they need something like, hey, we need to hunt for this, we need this to do X thing, can you tell us about our threats profile and things like that? All of the TAMs on our team are XIR, threat hunters, red teamers, things like that. So this truly is a thing built by analysts for analysts, and I love it. I love all the teams that I work with. So that's kind of my background, and that's how I came to Gigamon about 2 years ago. Actually, funny that we're doing this during Black Hat, because I had my final interview. You were there, right? Yeah, you were there. I had my final interview. We're going to get to the whole mobile security thing, but you guys want to hear stories, right? A little bit. I had my final interview with my team and with Justin and with a couple other guys, and I was late touching down in Vegas. I was like an hour late, and they're like, "Oh, where'd Danny go?" So as soon as I turn my phone on, it rings. And I was like, hey, man, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not going to make the interview. I felt like a real schmuck. And they're like, we don't care. We want to talk to you. Where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm going to go to my hotel at Bally's. And these guys met me in Bally's in a bar at like 10 o'clock at night just to have my final interview. And it was a great conversation. And that's how I ended up here. So this time of year has a special significance for me, not only because of DEF CON and things like that, and because of Vegas, but because this is how I started here. So anyway, that's my background. That's Justin's background. Justin is a dangerous, dangerous man. Don't let him fool you. But recently, the reason that they want us to kind of come on and chat for a little bit, fill some time, is our ATR team just put out a report on mobile device security. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, that's correct.
Hold on, my video went wonky. Hold on, I'm coming. I still got to get. There
technical difficulties.
I am a one-man shop right now. Like, even in the regular world, I'm a one-man shop when it comes to all this. So, if anybody had the over/under of when Danny was going to screw something up, it was about 11 minutes, 12 minutes. I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. So, mobile device security. Can you give me kind of the overview of this new report that came out?
Yeah, totally. This kicked off for us, actually, this topic of interest about a little over a year ago. So our team, ATR, regularly gets access and hunts through our customer networks, and we primarily do that for the purpose of detection engineering and detect threat intelligence. So we kind of have a feedback loop going from our intel team into our detection engineering team. And doing this, we oftentimes get to find some pretty gnarly stuff. One of the days that we were doing this, we were specifically hunting through kind of the HTTP metadata, and we stumbled upon something that just, I guess the simplest way to say it is just looked jank. And so we started to dig deeper and deeper, and what we uncovered was that this...
Justin went away. We're doing it live, folks.
Yeah. Hey,
Hey,
can you
there
hear
you
me?
are. Yeah, no, I got you.
Let me see if I can get video going again. But basically, what we discovered was that we discovered a whole malware infrastructure and a malware ecosystem. So we tracing it back, we found that this malware was beaconing out from a really sensitive engineering environment. So we kind of just assumed, company laptop or managed device. But upon digging further, we realized that this device was actually a phone, and not only just a phone; it was an employee's phone, unmanaged. And this piece of malware wasn't just idle beaconing. We saw a lot of interactive traffic, and one of the things we were able to confirm that it did was actually exfiltrating room audio. So recording devices off the microphone and pulling that data. That obviously, since the Spidey senses live, we kind of contacted the people, worked through. And what was particularly interesting about this was we actually believe that this was, a criminal threat, leveraging a parental monitoring tool, a Mongolian monitoring tool named Taslal. Uh, and Taslal was a pretty typical parental monitoring tool, very easy to build packages and leverage rooted devices to do all sorts of nefarious things. That led us to kind of do a more in-depth research study and look across the data sets and kind of identify what we see in general with mobile devices, and discovering that we see tons of unmanaged mobile devices across corporate networks. Actually not uncommon, and that mobile devices are highly prevalent, both on guest Wi-Fi, obviously, but also in corporate Wi-Fi. And that led us down the path of working to deeper understand the threats that these pose. For me, as a former red teamer, not much background on the blue team side before this jumped out as really interesting to me, because I, as a red team guy, I just always assumed that hygiene was perfect and policies were in place. Like, it's really easy to write in your red team report, like, do not allow mobile devices on the network. But the reality is that's not always possible. And with deep subsidiaries and various business units, policies vary, and there's different things that happen. So for me, this was interesting to see the threat that a personally owned mobile device brings to the enterprise. While that malware might not necessarily be able to be leveraged to pivot to anything sensitive on the network, it was recording room audio from a corporate office. That's a pretty significant information barrier that's able to be sidestepped. I when communicating this to the business, when you look at a boardroom or you look at an executive's office, like, where does the cell phone sit? It's right on the desks. All the executives have their cell phones just sitting on the desks,
Or in their hands, or
and they're working. They have to work. But think of the conversations that those cell phones have proximity to, and kind of what that means for the business. So that's kind of an overview of what led us to land here. The report goes into greater depth about just the general threats that kind of BYOD and mobile devices bring, and talks about some of the statistics and data we see across our data set. But it all started with just threat hunting, finding malicious command and control, and realizing what we had. The most hilarious part of all of this, by the way, is that after we saw room audio exfiltrated, which you would assume is sophisticated, it could be used by sophisticated threat activity. We saw it using SMS to just spam like a Mongolian pay link, hoping they would phish people for money. So instead of using the highly sensitive room audio, they decided that it would be quicker to just monetize SMS fraud.
yeah. Damn you, Mongolians! It's a very old South Park joke that not anybody's gonna get. Yeah, because and I remember not too many years ago, there would be a lot of people that would be like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal," but literally, we're all carrying surveillance devices every single day. We're carrying microphones in our pockets. We're carrying. I mean, how many times have you? I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the moron that does this, but accidentally turns on the light on your camera by just accidentally hitting a button or something. What kind? The amount of information that can be gleaned from somebody's personal device. Now, how do you monitor that stuff? How do you mitigate that in an enterprise? You don't own the devices, and how are you going to stop them besides making them lock them up when if you can come into an office, which none of us can right now?
Yeah, if you're asking me, that's a really tough question. And if I had it solved, we would all be very wealthy people. I think it's a healthy, like most things in security and most problems you face, it's a healthy balance of a lot of different solutions. So obviously, if it's a corporate device, you want to manage them. Use MDM, and to the best of your abilities, leverage that MDM to get visibility and prevent malicious use. If it's an unmanaged device, you want to try to limit access of unmanaged devices onto the network, which in this case wouldn't have necessarily prevented room audio, but it would have prevented any secondary network threats. And then there's always like the default, the remediation plan of add policy, like insert policy here in brackets, and be smart with the fact that we all walk around with microphones, and you have to be reasonable to assume that if you're in sensitive communications, there could be a compromised device. It's not so science fiction anymore that these devices could be compromised and used in this way. Awareness is a big thing. There's a reason the government still forces their people to work in big stone buildings where no phones are allowed. I mean, let's put that in perspective. So, but I think a healthy dose of skepticism is good. I also think we have to be realistic and understand that there's a needs of a business in security. Like security supports the business, and that although this is a risk, sometimes there's going to be times where we have to accept the risk or recognize the risk and do our best to mitigate it through visibility. So, in our case, we found this because we were a network monitoring and NDR and NTA appliance sitting on the network that they had connected to. And so we were able to provide value just by getting that kind of broad Overwatch visibility, but not always the case.
So what's are there particular families of malware out there like that are known for being on mobile, like things that maybe ATR has been, I mean, not to like give away tradecraft or whatever, like, oh God, they're watching us. Like, not that the actual authors would be watching this right now, but do you know of any off the top of your head that are like particularly widespread?
And you're quizzing me here, making this hard.
Yeah.
No,
Get good,
there's
scrub.
there's a number of malware that has been seen and leveraged in Android marketplaces, both through fake apps or fraudulent apps, as well as are used secondary to like exploits to install themselves. We see a number of kind of low key ad injection type kits and things like I think it's Andromeda and stuff like that, pretty widespread. I think what stuck out to us in this case is this: we had never seen this before. Like this felt, I don't know, it felt targeted, even though it pretty clearly revealed itself as an untargeted attempt. So there's a number of kits out there, and I think the scary things or the things that people stay up at night are worrying about are the things you don't see. So what kits out there are being installed after exploitation that aren't just sitting in the marketplace to be hunted or haven't gotten reports written about them.
And I don't think I asked you at the outset of this. What is your title here within ATR? You used to be like head muckety muck, or maybe now you're king muckety muck. Are you your team lead? Remind me.
Yeah, my official title is Senior Director of Gigamon ATR. We live inside our research and development organization at Gigamon, so working right alongside our engineers as our sister team to help build detection and leverage the data we have to do that intelligence. I kind of grew up in this team. I actually started on a different team. I started working with our partnership team and working within incident response partners to do essentially IR services and product support. So kind of like a TAM role, and kind of moved around internally when we were a startup and landed here. Quite happy here. I work with a lot of really smart people, and I've become a manager, man. So I think I make this joke to you pretty much. I make this joke to you every day. But my job is really supporting our smart people and helping enable them to do the awesome stuff they do. I was lucky in that this research actually stemmed from when I was still a security engineer at Gigamon. So I was able to help write the blog and provide input here. Ed Miles is the primary author of our blog. primary analyst who wrote it, fantastic reverse engineer and analyst who works on our intelligence team. And in this case, I was just supporting him. He has a new baby, so he's hopefully taking a lot of time off work and not on this Discord and Twitch chat either.
I swear, Ed, if you pop in right now, we'll all be very upset with you.
I'm just filling in for him here, man. Looking pretty for the camera. So, but no, it's a fantastic team with a lot of smart people and a lot of great backgrounds, ranging everything from previous college interns that we've picked up and have been pivotal for our organization, to people with a lot of experience in data science and RE, security R&D. It's a fantastic team to be on.
So we can stray a little bit if I'm just sticking to straight mobile stuff, because Intel as a whole, because like okay, cool, phones are a dumpster fire. Yeah, we know. Don't let them use them. Okay, no, we know. Do you though? But just talking about to like Intel in general, because I think you and your entire team, thank God that you're all super genius smart, because I am not. There are certain things when you get in, there is such a wide array of things that you can specialize in when it comes to security in this business. And I quickly got rid of at least two options: malware reverse engineering. I am far too stupid. You guys have seen that I've already screwed up 3 times on this broadcast with audio and video things. I can run strings, probably, if I remember how to do it. And Intel, not so much. I never have my phone on. Go away. And I never have the patience. It's not that I don't know how to do Intel. I just don't want to, because I don't want to murder the people I work with. How hard is getting good, reliable Intel for like more than just here's a list of IP addresses, here's a list of domains? Like, what's the hardest thing to you about being a threat researcher?
Oh man, you're opening a can of worms here.
We got time, bro.
This could be like a ton of Twitch streams on its own, man.
We're on company time, brother.
I think, it's beautiful, right? I think we have to start with understanding like what we define as Intel, because I saw someone in the chat. What is the meaning of life? It's pretty relevant. Like, what do we define as Intel is a really good start, because I think it's a pretty misconstrued and abused word in this industry in general. So, for me, threat intelligence is a process that we leverage raw information or collected information to essentially draw conclusions and draw analysis from that information. We process it, we analyze it, and then we turn that information into useful outputs through the act of dissemination. So that could be reports, it could be context and insights, it could be product information. You could use Intel to help fuel a product. IP addresses and domains, those are data points. They may be some output from the intelligence process, but I think they're not necessarily intelligence on their own. Within ATR, we actually are not like a threat intelligence service provider. We don't sell Intel. We don't have like an Intel service, but for us, Intel is a key piece of everything we do in our team. If you say you're a threat detection company, you don't do threat intelligence, I'd really like to understand like how you know what you're detecting, and how you know what you're detecting is and how you're detecting it is of any quality, and how you keep up with a changing landscape. Because the simple fact of the matter is like our threats from 6 months ago are different than our threats from today. Just look at the evolution of command and control over legitimate services, or domain fronting. Like, that's a threat that's evolved over the last couple of years that wasn't around 3 or 4 years ago. If you don't have a threat intelligence team, how are you tracking that, keeping up with that, finding representative samples of that, and then using that to do proper detection engineering, detection testing? So for us, we use it as a primarily internal process. We have a number of sources of private, proprietary, as well as public information that we leverage to essentially try to discover threat activity. Sometimes that we might discover that out on the internet before the adversary ever uses their infrastructure. Sometimes we might discover that inside a customer network, in which case we can use that intelligence to provide a tip and build some detection capabilities around it. So I think when you ask, like, what is threat intelligence, or how do we use it? How do you like threat research? I love this. This is one of my favorite parts of our team. I think it's a team that sometimes is behind the curtain in a lot of things. Like, you see the detections, you see the R&D work. You don't necessarily see the intelligence work that goes into making these successful and differentiating them in the marketplace as a vendor. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I think, for the listeners or people that are on, threat intel can be any number of different things in your business, in your vendor. Everyone could call it something different, and they're not necessarily wrong. The benefit or the value of threat intelligence is it's all about your consumers. So like, as a threat intel analyst, your job is to provide something useful to a consumer of that information, to a customer. And so, my customer is not your customer in threat intelligence, and my requirements are not yours. It could look different depending on what you're trying to do. Does that help?
Yeah, no. And yeah, you guys really are behind the scenes, except on the rare occasion that I just hear Spencer freaking out in chat because he's mad about something. Why isn't this working? What would you be doing if it wasn't for threat research? If you were just like, I everything's broken, I hate this, I'm leaving. What would you as a person be doing?
Man, that's a fantastic question. So I have a lot of hobbies. My wife pretty much constantly makes fun of me that I just have too many hobbies. I have a photography company on the side. I do as a side business, and I'm a huge I have photography as a hobby. So like traveling, like in travel photography, family photography. I'm a volunteer in humanitarian work. So man, if I had more time to do that, I would certainly fill the calendar. There's no shortage of humanitarian work to be done. I have a family. I would love to, if I just quit threat research today, I would love to, go biking with my daughter, spend a couple extra minutes there. So yeah, I have a lot of different hobbies. I really like my job. I think I have the benefit and privilege to have kind of chosen into this industry. I never did like IT administration. I never worked through the normal channels that most people work up into the information security discipline. I was very fortunate that I started in the subdiscipline with the government and stayed inside of it. So yeah, I really like the path we've chosen and the work. There's no shortage of really fun things to learn. I never feel like I've apexed. I'm a forever noob, man. And I think a good feeling in this industry to have.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you ever get to a point where you feel like you are the smartest person in the room, you are absolutely in the wrong room.
Agreed.
Or you've just gotten stupider. So I always like, and I don't actually know how much time that they're going to give us. I mean, we've been a half hour, so I'm going to keep talking to you for a little bit longer because we're still getting paid for it. God, what was the question that I was? Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Especially with what we do. I mean, we deal with a lot of large enterprises, right? That actually have an intel capability, that have the staff for it, that might have the budget for it, and things like that. Especially if you're lucky enough to be in a big organization that has a dedicated team, which I've worked for a couple of them. But say there's a black hat, if this is being broadcast there, attracts all kinds, right? It's not just huge enterprises. It's not just their employees. There could be some mid-level enterprises where maybe one person is doing all of these things, and they can't possibly have a top shelf like hunting workflow. They can't possibly have a top shelf monitoring program, and then they got to do intel on top of that. What are like some I don't want to say quick and dirty, but quick and dirty ways for them to at least spin up some semblance of an intel capability relevant? And this, I know it's a broad question because it varies by enterprise and business vertical. But like, what are some quick wins that you don't have to pay thousands of dollars for intel feeds and have consultants come in, that you can at least get something going to have an internal capability to do your own research?
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the concept of enabling the mid-level business and those that don't necessarily have the budget to pay these big firms or vendors. Starting with a piece of advice I would say before talking about where they could go to do it. A piece of advice would be to take a second. If you're a guy who's been tasked to do threat intelligence, like in your business, take a second to understand what the person tasking you means. Take a second to understand, like, who are the customers that you're serving within your business, and what are their actual needs. A couple of examples. If a COO comes to me and is like, I attended Black Hat and I saw this threat intelligence thing, and I want you to do it. Go do threat intel. What does that person mean? Do they just want you to give them strategic threat briefs? Like, do they just want to feel like all these bad guys? Do they want you to feed technical information to do detection? Like, do they want you to have like an indicator parsing and analysis stream? I think understanding what is needed, what those requirements are, intelligence requirements, is absolutely key to a small intelligence shop or any internal intelligence shop, because time is money, and so you have to prioritize that time. I might, do I need to understand every APT on the planet? No, absolutely. But you certainly should do the ones that are relevant to yours, like your threat model. So intelligence requirements and customer identification, persona identification is key. What are some like more technical, tactical things that you can use? So if you're looking for like intelligence data and feeding that into a detection program, there are tons of feeds out there that are actually not paid, that actually do very well. Facebook Threat Exchange, there's tons of different feeds underneath that aggregator that works really well. There's a number of like DGA and C2 feeds out there that researchers put out and actually serve. URL House and MalwareDBs and all of those. These are all more or less free or very, very cheap pieces of information that work great. That work great in providing indicators and data. That's a good starting point. Again, these indicators aren't threat intel on their own, but they're derived indicators that could provide value as an intel analyst. There's no shortage of threat reporting out there. I would say, so high-level reporting, things coming out of the CrowdStrikes and the Mandiants and the big vendors. I would comment that, if you're relying purely on that and believing that you have comprehensive reporting, it's unlikely. A lot of those reports are dated. They're not dropping knowledge bombs on like hotness they saw 3 days ago. They're dropping stuff historical fashion, just like our report is dated. It's on a threat we saw some time ago. And so just be conscious of that, where you're getting reporting sources. I'll tell you what one of my favorite sources for a threat intel analyst nowadays, and this is going to sound so cliche, so viewers don't pass judgment, but MITRE ATT&CK is a fantastic intelligence source. People use it a whole bunch of different ways. Red teams use it to document and provide a standard nomenclature. Blue teams use it to do purple teaming and coverage assessments over their tool sets and detection mechanisms. Intel analysts can get value out of it too. There's a lot. MITRE ATT&CK is based exclusively on public reporting. And so every technique in there is tied back to a threat group and a report where that has been cited as being used. And it's a great place that you can go spin up and get smart on different threat groups, different tool sets out there, as well as, kind of the end goal, better understand at a high level threat actor techniques and tactics. As an intel analyst, you need to understand the threat. That's your primary role and responsibility in providing that knowledge to different places in the organization.
Yeah, the influence of MITRE ATT&CK on the industry cannot be. I can't even remember a time when that wasn't a thing. I know she doesn't work there anymore, but if anybody knows her, hi Katie, Katie Nichols.
Hi Katie.
Yeah, hi Katie. she has since moved on to other things, but that looks the way that it does, and it is as good as it is, largely due to people like Katie. And she's lovely, so I haven't seen her for a while.
Yeah, their team is great, man. I know Blake Strom.
Yep.
I used to work over there. I think he's since moved on too. Katie, there's several folks. Honestly, I've interacted with 5 or 6 of their folks, and all of them love this industry and are very passionate about helping any way they can. I've reached out to them on the side to work with them to get techniques added to the framework when we were doing some browser research. And they were super responsive and supportive and excited to see it expand. So it's a great project. And yeah, as an Intel analyst, it can be a great resource if you understand how to use it.
Yeah. Those are probably the two main things, and I just tweeted about this the other day, that I see as really having changed a lot for the better and having a huge influence is Miter and Zeke, the artist formerly known as Bro. You can't swing a cat without touching a product that is either completely based on Bro or has been influenced by it. That is actually a functional thing that you can use. If you are a threat hunter, if you are any way a part of a defensive blue, whatever you want to call it, and especially if you're new and find yourself on one of those teams and you don't understand Zeke, I highly recommend to remedy that. And I think they're on Twitter at Zeke's Security, I think. Yeah, ad security. So now we talked a little bit about advice to people responsible for mid-level enterprises. If I will forever never waver on this, that the single biggest threat, I sound like one of those ads when you get off the plane at McCarran during Black Hat that like you hear blaring, the single biggest threat is us, is humans, because we're inherently flawed. I don't care how elite you think you are, how many years you've been in this business, you are also a big part of the risk picture for your enterprise. So, user education, debated left, right, this, that, and the other thing. I hate my users. Oh, you can't say that because, like, no. And plus, I hate when people go on and just blame the users for things. So, if you could be sat in front of a group of users, mid-level, enterprise level, whatever, and you could impart any points of knowledge to them that would get. I'm a big believer of letting them have skin in the game, right? Like, you are part of our defense. It's not just all blinky boxes. What advice would you give, or what would you want to teach if you had like an hour to do a security learning session with just rank and file users in like accounting and accounts receivable and things like that?
And that's a hard question. An hour is never enough. But yeah, I think like for me, I like to echo what you just said. Like I think it's really important for users to understand that it's not an us versus them scenario, and that it's in the terms of like internally, and that we're all a team and we all care about the vested interest of the business and the company. I think in an hour, like this is my first hour doing user awareness or security education or getting to talk to users, I think I would spend a little bit of time opening their eyes to the reality of the threat picture. That doesn't need to be a fear mongering or FUD session. That could simply be like, hey, there are criminals in the world who like to do indiscriminate phishing. And if they phish us, our entire enterprise will be shut down. Like users need to hear stuff like that to understand that it's not just in science fiction movies. And then I think that from there, you need to transition your talking points into the fact that we're a team, and they just need to practice sound judgment in their day-to-day work on the internet, just like they would on any other part of their job. That device they're using is a piece of work equipment, and it should be treated as such. I mean, if you've ever sat in a SOC or a NOC and just seen like the horrific things that users do with their managed work devices, I mean, like it blows my mind that it would even cross the minds of acceptability in many cases for what people use devices for, and so many compromises stem from that just lack of awareness of the sensitivity and lack, I guess, of mutual respect on kind of what that device is actually intended for and how you choose to use it. So I think that's where I'd spend my hour. That's a tough question. I could go with the default of just like we need to teach them phishing. That's kind of like the standard approach is like teach all users phishing. But I think that's a whole complicated topic on its own. And again, yeah, heavily debated in terms of how you do it effectively. Talking about users, I think my biggest adage is like you always need to educate, but you always need to verify. So it's like that classic trust but verify. So like I believe in security awareness and security education, if nothing else, just to like open them up to the fact that it's a risk. But I also believe that it's really important that I think it's really important that our jobs in the security business is, again, to enable the business. And we need to find ways to enforce those policies and add protection that accounts for the fact that these people are working, and they're gonna do things that might be harmful during their normal work. So.
Yeah, and which actually brings us back rather nicely to what we initially started talking about, of the whole bring your own destruction.
You plan this?
No, I absolutely didn't, but I am going to take advantage of as a good segue to get out, because as it happens, we still have clients to work with today. I've done training within numerous roles that I've been in, and I am a firm believer from my experience of, if trying to at least get it, you're not going to reach everybody, right? Like, there's not going to be like a cure-all, everybody's on security now. But making them realize that they have skin in this game. I wouldn't say go as far as striking fear into them, but maybe, like, if I would strike fear if it was a serial abuser who just didn't seem to care, or like keeps emailing things to themselves. When this new blog came out about mobile device security, I was asked to write like a little blog about the report. And I believe like one of the things that I said in there was, a little scenario of, you're about to go on vacation and, I forgot to work on this thing. Well, I'll just email it to myself. I do it all the time. And now it's on your phone. It's in your sent items. You save the document on your phone, and now the next day it's your first day off, and then you go and you go to your favorite breakfast spot, and now you left your phone out. Did you ever change your password from those 4 zeros? Because guess what, the first numeric thing I would try on a phone, it was 4 zeros. And now the sky is the limit. What are the odds like an APT is going to pick it up? Not many. However, you have now not only opened up yourself to like reprimands and losing your job and things like that, but you have now affected everybody else in that company by opening up that giant hole of risk. So if you can just get them on your team and get them to have skin in the game, and don't talk to them like they're idiots. Like, they've all had and actually somebody said, oh my God, he actually did it. So one of my admins for my Twitch channel said the phrase user awareness training, which I hate. And I was like, ban that whole phrase from the Twitch. And he literally just did it. Because it's so played out. Like, yeah, hey, it's our annual fish thing. Hey guys, just like turn the volume off and just what every security person does. Click next, click next, click next. But believe that they have skin in the game.
And for what it's worth, I mean, like, there's a place for phishing training, obviously, but like, again, understanding your threat model, understanding what you're educating users to and against. It's more complicated than just running the once a year, just like you said.
Yeah.
When we used to do red team work, man, like story time, we used to do red team work. Our phishing was never as simple as like I wouldn't say never. We did some pretty simple phishing, but a lot of times we would do rapport building. I mean, we would engage users in a more targeted fashion and exchange a whole lot of emails before we ever emailed payloads. And those kind of threats, like, that's not what awareness training is educating you to. But again, it's all about threat models. There's more out there than just how you educate. One thing too is, like, you mentioned, get the skin in the game. I love that phrase, man. I think that's a really good way to talk about it. And I also think it highlights the importance of this isn't just a technical problem. It's really common for technical people just to focus on technical solutions. But getting people to realize they have skin in the game is, I mean, that's a leadership, that's a psychology class on its own, buy-in and motivation and organizational culture and social responsibility. You could go any number of ways with that topic on how to do this effectively without ever touching the concept of sending an email or SMTP. And I think that's valuable. I think it's important for the security team, especially the security leadership and executives, to recognize that this is a human problem and that this is an organizational problem as much as it is a checkbox on technical solutions and additions.
That's right. I got my severe thought leader on with that phrase. Well, dude, and like then we could go so much into the whole social engineering thing and blah, blah, blah. Like, again, hours. I love it. I love it. Hours and hours. However, these little Splinter Cell podcast or streams that I do off of my regular are going to be a regular thing. So I would like to have you back on. Maybe rope some more of your team in here. God, I would love to.
Yeah, I heard Dan Castleton really wants to get on.
That's
stream,
my absolute get. I was just about to say, if I could get Dan Castleton on here, I believe he's also on Twitter. So if people can find Dan Castleton and tell him that he should come on stream to discuss Intelli things, I would love that. Poor Dan.
Yeah, Dan's a brilliant person who's worked in a lot of different stuff, and yeah, he is literally Dan Castleton on Twitter. So if you're listening to this, go hit him up and tell him that tell him that you want to see him on this stream. Yep. That would be good. Another one is Josh Day. These guys are my technical leads. They're the ones that actually do all the hard work that I get to tell people about. So Josh Day, love to get him on here to talk to you and just share bits of wisdom or geek out.
Yeah, your entire team. Actually, a member of your team is in the chat.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I can never remember how to pronounce her handle.
Grenlith.
God, jeez, I'm so bad at that. Love her. She's one of my favorites too. But
attending Black Hat today for her first time.
Yeah. Okay, congratulations.
Yeah.
This is actually not a bad way to do Black Hat because you can just have no pants on and they're not going to kick you out. Anyway, Justin, I love you, man. You're easily one of my favorite reasons of working where I do. And also, I mean, follow him on Twitter. He is at 6dub. And if there is ever a model of how to foster like a team unity and get people involved in the mission and caring about it, that's Justin. Justin is the he walks the walk. Absolutely. So follow him on Twitter. For everybody else, you've seen my stuff. It's right above Justin's head. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the actual show, which is Second Order Chaos, all of my past interviews, if you like the way I do things and you liked our conversation, I got more. So youtube.com/Second Order Chaos. Subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do. I'll absolutely be back in this capacity for Gigamon and both on my other stream. So Justin, dude, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Always great talking.
I